Okay, everybody, in this lesson, we're going to talk more about the notes of the neck, and I'll give you some strategies for memorizing them. So let's go through the big E string and talk about what notes there are. The open string is E. The first fret is F. If you move F up one, you've got F sharp, which is also G flat. The third fret is G. If you move G up one, you've got G sharp, which is also A flat. The fifth fret is A. If you move it up one, you've got A sharp. So I don't know if you're getting this, but for most notes, the note right above it is the sharp. Like that's F, and that's F sharp. That's A, and that's A sharp. Now when you get to B, it's a little different. I'm not going to go into the deep musical history behind this, but there is no note between B and C. So from B, it just moves up one fret, and you're a C. And you move C up one, C sharp, or D flat. When you're on D, if you move it up one, D sharp, which could also be called E flat. And then when you're at E, just like the B and C thing where there's no space between E and F. E, F, E, F, E, there's no space. So the first takeaway is that there is no space between E and F, and there is no space between B and C. The musical alphabet is sort of like the ABCs, but after G it repeats. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and back to A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and back to A. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, back to A. A, and there's a space. B, no space between B and C. C, and then there's a space. D, and then there's a space. E, but there's not going to be a space after E between F. E, F, no space between those. F, and then there's a space. G, and then there's a space. Back to A. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's the notes of music. And then the sharps and flats are the notes in between. There's no sharps and flats between B and C or between E and F. So the first thing you need to do is learn the notes of the big E string. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and E. And also learn the names of each string. E, A, D, G, B, and E. Yep, that's an E. There's a big E and there's a little E. There's a big E at the top and a little E at the bottom. So now if you know E, F, G, A, B, C, D, and E, if you know that those are there and you want to find an A flat, then you go, okay, the fifth fret is A and flat is down one fret. And that's A flat. The fifth fret is A, down one fret, you're going to find A flat. Or if you need to find D sharp, you go, okay, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Okay, there's D. D sharp. Sharp means you go up one fret. And there's D sharp right there. So that's why I say start with the big E string and learn the names of the notes. You don't have to memorize the sharps and flats because you know that if there's G, then G flat's going to be one down from it, or G sharp would be one up from it. So don't worry too much about the sharps and flats for now. Just learn E is open, first fret is F, third fret is G, fifth fret is A, seventh fret is B, eighth fret is C, 10th fret is D, and it repeats at the 12th fret. E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So once you've memorized which notes are on which frets of the big E, you automatically know the little E. And once you know the name of each string, you can count up a string and find a note on it. So the second to the bottom is the B string. So if you need to find the C note, this is going to be the easiest one. There's no space between B and C, so open is B, and then no space. The first fret is C. If you want to find an E note on the B string, you go B, C, and there's a space, D, and there's space, and there's E. So that's how you find a note on a string, by just knowing the name of the string. Let's find C on the G string. So the open note is G, skip one to A, skip one to B, and there's no space between B and C, so the next one is C. So that's a strategy for going up the frets to find a note on any given string when you're starting out. Now over time, you'll get this stuff memorized and you won't have to count up to anything anymore on the guitar. If I want to find an A note on the D string, I know it's right there. If I want a G note on the B string, I know it's right there. And that stuff just comes with time. You can study charts and quiz yourself or use online trainers. All that stuff is a legit way to do this. But also just take your time while you're learning guitar and learn how to play chords, learn how to play scales. You know, always be learning more than one thing at once with guitars. The things that are really hard for you right now will be easy for you later. So don't get too hung up on memorizing all the notes of the neck right away, because that'll come with time. Start out by learning ABCDEFG, ABCDEFG, and remembering always that there's no space between E and F. There's no space between B and C. That's it. That unlocks the whole thing if you just know that the strings are E, A, D, G, B, and E. I googled guitar string name mnemonics just for you. We've got Eat All Day, Get Big Easy, Eddie Ate Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie, Elvis always dug good banana eating, Every apple does good being eaten, Every amp deserves guitars and basses every day. That's a great one. Every acid dealer gets busted eventually. Even average dogs get bones eventually. So there's some mnemonics for you. For me, it was easiest just to remember E-A-D-G-B-E. E-A-D-G-B-E. E-A-D-G-B-E, E-A-D-G-B-E. That's how I memorized it. I don't know. I just learned them. E-A-D-G-B-E. Whatever works for you to memorize them is good, but don't get hung up on learning it all at once, because over time, let's just say you play a lot of songs that have the G chord, which we'll learn in a future lesson. The big E, the note you play, is a G note. And once you've played this G chord enough times, you know that G note on the big E is right there. So some of this will unlock itself over time. One thing I did when I wanted to get where I instantly knew where notes were on the strings was I took little groupings like B, C, D, E, F, G, and found it in other places. B, C, D, E, F, G. That shape, up one fret, skip a fret, up one fret, skip a fret. I found that same B, C, D, E, F, G, B, C, D, E, F, G is in multiple spots on the neck. Over time, a good strategy is to take little groupings and memorize those groupings in different places on the neck. For me, just saying E, F, G, and then realizing that on the B string, starting at the 5th fret was E, F, G. And on the G string, starting at the 9th fret was E, F, G. So over time, when I want an E note, there's one right here, there's one right here, there's one right here, there's one right here, there's one right here. Another way to internalize the notes of the neck is to memorize what they call the DNA of a note on guitar. It's something I got out of a book a long time ago. I don't know who the author is. If anybody knows, let me know in the comments. But the idea is to look at every repeat of a note. So let's take a G note. It also repeats here. It also repeats here. It also repeats here. It also repeats here. So there's a visual pattern of where the notes are at. And if you're a visual learner, guitar is really easy because everything's a shape. It's also a combination of notes, but it's a shape. Think a lot about the shapes because they're the easiest thing to recall. And then over time, think about the sounds and the notes. But learning guitar with shapes is an important part of starting out. In the next lesson, we are going to learn to tune the guitar, which might be the most important lesson of all. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And if you look down in the description, I'll put a link to my website, birdsnakebrown.com. And thanks so much for learning guitar with me. I love guitar, and I want to share that with everyone. And I hope that through these basic lessons up through the advanced stuff that I show you, you can really just have a great time with guitar. That's what it's all about. I'm Birdsnake. Thanks for watching.